To my new subscribers, welcome. To my regulars, welcome back. The following is for entertainment purposes only.
Let me tell you something that might make your stomach clench just a little. As we stand here, barely 2 weeks into January of 2026, a series of changes are already on the horizon, set to fundamentally reshape how you save for your retirement. I've been looking into this, and what I've found suggests that your workplace pension, the very foundation of your future security, is about to face what I can only describe as a significant challenge. For many of us in the United Kingdom, the idea of a secure retirement feels increasingly distant. I hear it constantly. The relentless pressure of the cost of living, the stagnant wages that barely keep pace with rising prices, and the ever-present strain on our public services. Every trip to the supermarket, every energy bill, every unexpected expense reminds me and countless others of the invisible tax we're all paying, chipping away at our present and threatening our future. We are on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers to build a community that is aware of these financial shifts. If that resonates with you, hit subscribe. It's against this backdrop of financial anxiety that the government is rolling out a drastic overhaul of Britain's pension system. You might think, overhaul, that sounds like progress. And indeed, some elements are presented that way, but what I've observed is a complex web of reforms, some of which, I fear, will subtly diminish the value of your hard-earned pension savings. This isn't just about abstract economic policy. This is about your life, your family, and your peace of mind in later years. One of the most talked about changes, and one that I find particularly intriguing, is the nationwide rollout of pension dashboards. These are free, secure online tools that are designed to let you see all your workplace, private and state pension pots in one single convenient place. The phased rollout is set to mandate connections for schemes with over 100 members by October the 31st of this year, 2026. It sounds incredibly helpful, doesn't it? A clear view of your entire retirement landscape. But here's what I think. While the promise of clarity is alluring, I'm always wary when something seems too good to be true, or when it comes with unspoken caveats. Jonathan Watts-Ley, a director at Wealth at Work, has voiced a concern that I share. He warns that these dashboards, along with default retirement options, could inadvertently push savers into suboptimal deals, echoing the mistakes of past annuity markets. The idea is to empower you, but I wonder if it might also expose you. Then there's the issue of what are known as small pots. You might be surprised to learn just how many of these exist. Currently, there are approximately 13 million deferred pension pots valued under £1,000 each, and this number is growing by a staggering 1 million every single year. These are often left behind as people change jobs, accumulating across different providers and often forgotten. The government has formed a small pots delivery group to address this. Their aim is to transfer these small pots to consolidators, with full implementation expected around 2030. The stated goal is to simplify and make it easier for you to manage your savings. But I can't help but wonder about the mechanisms of this consolidation. Who exactly are these consolidators? What fees will they charge? And will the transfer truly be in the best interest of the individual saver? Or is it more about tidying up a messy system for the benefit of the industry? What I'm witnessing is a landscape where the individual saver, you, is expected to navigate an increasingly complex system, even as aspects of that system are being streamlined in ways that might not always benefit you directly. The stakes are incredibly high. This isn't just about numbers on a screen, it's about the quality of life. You can expect when you stop working the ability to maintain your independence and the legacy you hope to leave behind. It's a story of profound shifts, driven by a confluence of economic pressures and policy decisions that are unfolding right now in this very year, 2026. The coming months will reveal the true impact of these changes, and I believe it's vital that we understand precisely what's happening. The future of your pension is not a distant concern. It's being shaped by decisions made today, decisions that will ripple through decades. This is why I feel it's so important to dig into the details to truly understand the implications of what is being presented as progress. Now, let's talk about a change that, in my view, hits directly at your wallet and truly embodies the idea of a pension raid. This is the capping of national insurance exemptions on salary sacrifice pension contributions. It was announced in the autumn budget of 2025 and it's set to take effect from April of 2029. This isn't some distant possibility, it's a concrete policy that will impact millions of working people. Here's how salary sacrifice works and why it has been such a valuable tool for many. As Charlene Young, a pension expert at AJ Bell, explains, if you earn, say, £50,000, you might agree with your employer to reduce your taxable salary to £47,500. Your employer then contributes that £2,500 directly into your pension. Crucially, because your salary is lower, both you and your employer pay less national insurance contributions. The employer usually passes some or all of their savings back into your pension, which could mean an extra £345 annually in our example. It's a win-win, boosting your pension pot more efficiently. But from April 2029, this changes. The national insurance exemptions on salary sacrifice pension contributions will be capped at £2,000 annually. This means that any contributions you make above that £2,000 limit will become subject to both employer and employee national insurance contributions. For many, this will mean a significant reduction in the efficiency of their pension savings, effectively taking money out of their future retirement. I've looked at the analysis and the numbers are stark. Consider a 35-year-old earning £50,000, diligently sacrificing salary into their pension. Due to this new £2,000 national insurance cap, that individual could face a £22,060 pension shortfall by the time they reach 65, £22,000. Think about that for a moment. That's a substantial sum, a holiday, a new car, or simply crucial extra security in retirement, taken away by a policy change. Yvonne Braun, the Director of Policy for Long-Term Savings at the Association of British Insurers, has cautioned that this salary sacrifice cap will only accelerate what she calls a retirement crisis. She argues that we should not be cutting incentives for people to save, and I couldn't agree more. When the cost of living is already so high and people are struggling to save, reducing the effectiveness of one of the most efficient savings mechanisms feels like a direct hit on the very people trying to do the right thing for their future. It's a subtle shift, perhaps, in the grand scheme of government budgets, but its impact on individual financial planning is profound. This isn't just an economic statistic. This is about a family's ability to afford their golden years, about whether they can maintain their independence or whether they'll be forced to cut back even further. This is where I truly see the impact on you, on me, on everyone trying to plan for tomorrow. Beyond the salary sacrifice cap, there's a broader legislative push to reshape the entire pension landscape. The Pension Schemes Bill, which was laid before Parliament in 2025, is expected to receive royal assent by mid-2026. This bill introduces a new value for money framework for trust-based defined contribution schemes, mandates default retirement income solutions and encourages the creation of what are being called DC megafunds. Glyn Bradley, the chair of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries Pensions Board, has expressed support for the Pension Schemes Bill, stating that it aims for better saver value, simplification and economic growth. And on the surface, who wouldn't want better value and simplification? But I find myself asking, value for whom and simplification at what cost? The track record of large-scale financial reforms often shows that while they might streamline processes for institutions, the benefits don't always trickle down evenly to the individual. Think about these megafunds. The idea is to consolidate assets, achieve greater scale, and potentially generate better returns through more sophisticated investment strategies. This sounds good in theory, But what I've learned about large-scale financial systems is that they can also become more opaque, less responsive to individual needs, and concentrate power in fewer hands. It's a delicate balance between efficiency and accountability, and I believe the individual saver needs to be very aware of where that balance is shifting. Then there's the Financial Conduct Authority's targeted support regime, which is scheduled to launch in April of 2026, subject to parliamentary approval. This regime aims to enable customised recommendations from banks, pension providers and employers for retirement planning. Again, the intent appears to be positive, or to provide more tailored guidance. But I question the independence of these recommendations. Are they truly in your best interest, or are they designed to guide you towards products and services offered by the very institutions providing the advice? This isn't just theoretical speculation. We've seen in the past how financial advice, even well-intentioned, can lead to outcomes that are not always optimal for the consumer. My concern is that while these new frameworks promise value and support, they might also create new avenues for institutions to manage and profit from your pension savings in ways that are less transparent than they should be. It's a complex dance between regulation and market forces, and it's you, the saver, who is often caught in the middle. Let's also consider the curious case of defined benefit, or DB schemes. These are often seen as the gold standard of pensions, offering a guaranteed income in retirement. As we entered 2026, these schemes collectively held a staggering £223 billion surplus, with assets exceeding liabilities by 24 to 25%. The Pension Protection Fund, which acts as a safety net for failed DB schemes, even set its levy at zero for 2025 to 2026, reflecting this robust financial health. This sounds like fantastic news, doesn't it? A sign of strength in a part of the pension system. But then an announcement from the autumn budget of 2025 stated that from April 2027, schemes will gain the power to pay surpluses directly to members over the normal minimum pension age if certain conditions are met. On the surface, this might seem like a bonus, a windfall for some, but I find myself asking, is this truly about empowering members, or is it a mechanism to release capital from these well-funded schemes, potentially altering their long-term stability or reducing the buffer they hold? It's a subtle but significant change. While a surplus payment might be welcome to some, the broader implications for the long-term health and purpose of DB schemes are worth considering. It's another example of how seemingly positive changes can have multiple layers of impact, some of which only become clear much later. What I'm seeing is a systemic effort to re-evaluate and redistribute capital within the pension system, and it's important to understand the motives behind these moves. Then there are the changes to the Collective Defined Contribution, or CDC, regime. These changes, which become effective on July the 31st of 2026, will enable unconnected multi-employer schemes. This means that different employers, who are not necessarily linked, can pool their investment and longevity risks to provide target pensions. I see this as a double-edged sword. On one hand, pooling risks can offer greater stability and potentially better returns than individual DC schemes. On the other hand, it introduces a new level of complexity and interdependence. If multiple employers are involved and their fortunes diverge, how does that impact the overall stability of the CDC scheme? While the aim is to provide more predictable retirement incomes, the collective nature also means that individual control and transparency might be reduced. It's a new model, and, like all new models, it comes with both potential benefits and inherent risks that you, as a potential member, need to be aware of. My concern is always about where the ultimate responsibility lies and how clearly that is communicated to those whose futures depend on these schemes. Finally, and perhaps most broadly, the government revived the Pensions Commission in 2025. This commission is tasked with proposing long-term changes to the pension system to ensure retirement security. An interim report is due in the spring of 2026, with a final report expected in 2027. This commission is the overarching body considering the entire future of UK pensions. Its findings will inform the next wave of reforms, shaping the landscape for decades to come. I believe this Commission's work is incredibly important, but also incredibly challenging. They are looking at the big picture, but the details of implementation, the specific policies like the NI cap on salary sacrifice, are what truly impact individuals. What I'm witnessing is a period of intense activity with multiple reforms being pushed through simultaneously, all under the umbrella of ensuring future security. But I wonder if all these moving parts truly align to benefit the everyday saver. So, what have we learned about this vast overhaul, this subtle but pervasive raid on your workplace pension? We've seen a flurry of activity with new legislation, new dashboards and new rules all converging in 2026 and the years immediately following. The Pension Schemes Bill is set to receive royal assent by mid-2026, bringing in value for money frameworks and small pots transfers. The FCA's targeted support regime will launch in April 2026, offering customised advice. By October 2026, the largest pension schemes must connect to the new dashboards. Then, from April 2027, schemes will gain the power to pay surpluses directly to eligible members. And perhaps the most impactful change for many, the £2,000 annual cap on national insurance-free salary sacrifice contributions will take effect from April 2029. Finally, around 2030, we expect to see the full implementation of the small pots consolidation system. It's a relentless march of change and it's happening now. What I've come to understand is that these changes, while often presented as improvements for simplification and efficiency, carry significant implications for your personal financial future. The salary sacrifice cap is a direct hit to your ability to save efficiently. The consolidation of small pots, while seemingly practical, raises questions about transparency and control. Even the dashboards designed to give you clarity might open doors to advice that isn't always in your best interest. It feels like a shifting of responsibility. The system is becoming more complex, yet the onus is increasingly on you, the individual, to navigate it, to understand the nuances and to make the right choices. I believe the motivations behind these reforms are multifaceted. They are about streamlining a cumbersome system, yes, but also about managing national finances and potentially extracting more revenue, even if indirectly, from the very act of saving for retirement. Ultimately, what does this mean for the average UK citizen? It means that the landscape of retirement planning is more volatile, more complex, and potentially less rewarding than it once was. It means that the security you thought you were, building brick by brick through your workplace pension, might be subtly eroded by policy changes that are difficult to track and even harder to influence. I find myself reflecting on the future of retirement security in this country. Will these changes truly lead to a more robust and equitable system, or will they simply make it harder for ordinary people to achieve financial independence in their later years? The answers, I believe, will unfold in the coming months and years. But for now, one thing is clear. Your pension, your future, is very much on the table and it demands your attention.
While you're working hard, they're planning to take everything from you. And I honestly can't believe that she actually admitted this. I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm going to tell you today, because this may actually be the most important video I've done all year and the most urgent if this actually affects you. Because the EU has just announced something so disturbing and shocking that even I was shocked by what they have said. And once they actually go in this direction, it's almost impossible to reverse it, and it will affect most people. So it's probably best if I give you a little bit of context before I go into the hard-hitting stuff. So the EU has recently announced some shocking things. They're building a digital system that can track you. They've announced systems that will scan your children's faces and stop them having access to the internet. And at the exact same time, the ECB, the European Central Bank, has actually admitted that when they launch this digital euro, it will most likely, I'm using the exact words, cause a systemic crash of the banking system, and therefore everyone will have to go onto a digital euro. And that's where it gets crazy later on when I tell you about the limits and a couple of other things going on. But there's so much to cover in this video, there really is. And another question I've got for you as we start walking here is, why on earth, just as we're getting to this potential peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, would Germany, France, and a number of other countries all announce conscription, or as they call it, it's not conscription, it's basically conscription, all at the same time, while Ursula is on the warpath and her sidekick is also on the warpath? It is absolutely crazy. And actually, these are the sort of things that governments do right before a societal collapse, or when they're trying to bring about something like they did in World War I or World War II, where we just have this massive reset of society. So point number one then, and there's a lot of points to go over here, the EU has actually admitted the use of AI surveillance on citizens. This is not a joke. They have actually admitted that they've created, and you've got to think about this, they have unlimited money. The European Union has unlimited money, and they're spending it on AI, which is tracking, monitoring, reading all of your messages, everything you post on social media, every email you send, every message you send on your phone, and more. It's now collating it, and it's assessing it for threats. They also have a system called persuasive media correction, and that is just as bad when we get into all of that. And this is all fact, by the way. This is straight off the EU website. Whenever I'm grabbing this stuff, it's straight off the EU website. In fact, let me quote something here. AI systems are now able to scan your online posts, private messages, video feeds, including creating a transcript. So if you're on a video call, that it makes a transcript, including behavioral patterns and signs of political nationalism and extreme views against the Union. 1984, here we come. So honestly, for all the people that are shocked by this, what did you honestly think was going to happen? We've been talking about this for so long. It was obvious they were going to do this. When you've got a powerful tool like AI, and you've got these people in control, unelected leaders, of course they were going to take advantage of it. Of course they were going to use AI to create this mass surveillance system, which is basically now what they've done. The other major red flag here is what they call AI-generated counter-speech. The document states that the EU controls AI, that they're bots basically. So as you found out on X recently, all this time you've been arguing with some beautiful blonde liberal that you thought was from America, and it was actually just some guy sat in Bangladesh or Lahore or something. You've been arguing with some Indian guy basically. Well, now it turns out that there's basically tons of these bots, and they reply to posts to steer public opinion in the right direction. Examples include the correction of nationalistic posts as a political dogma. What? Can you honestly believe this is going on? The European Union is actually doing it. How? How are they doing this? And if you wonder why they're doing it, just look at every single city throughout Europe. They all look the same, these big cities now. Well, actually, not all. Places like Hungary and Poland and a couple of other places have avoided it. But you start looking at these cities, you go to London, you go to Paris, you go to Berlin, they all look the same. You go to some of the UK cities, the big cities, they all look the same now. And it's because they don't want you to identify as British, to identify as German, to identify as French or Swedish or Norwegian or whatever country. They don't want this. They want this big melting pot where all the cultures are just, you've lost your cultural identity. This is what they want. But it gets worse. Listen to this. They say that these bots, I'm calling them bots, they call them something like AI agents or whatever. So they're basically saying that these bots are designed to combat disinformation. And you ask, like, what does that actually mean? Well, I think it's clear that what they call misinformation is any content that doesn't align with what they want you to believe. So anything that's right-leaning, conservative in nature, anything like Hungary or Poland, right? Think of Hungary as the example. Anything like that, that is what they don't want. And you are right-wing, extremist, whatever, according to them, of course. And remember that Ursula has passed this law as well now, where we covered earlier in the week, to scan messages and everything else, so they can read your messages at any time. And yet, the irony of it, the hypocrisy of it, that when she had to give her messages over, her messages for the COVID inquiry, between her and the Pfizer chief, Advert, she deleted all of her messages. And she said that she wasn't going to give her messages. She deleted them. Well, just because she's the head of the EU, I mean, does that make her above the law? It's obvious why she deleted her messages, because there was some incriminating evidence in there. And yet what happens? Nothing. Even when you try and oust her, you can't get rid of her. And now she's talking about sending, your sons and daughters to war. But remember this clip that I played for you earlier this week.
Und es wäre ein Auslandseinsatz notwendig, dann würden sie mitgehen müssen. Und ich würde genauso zittern und bangen wie jede andere Mutter.
Ist jemand bei der Bundeswehr von Ihren Kindern?
Nein.
Now we've got to get on to point number 2 here. This is really, really serious. So Christine Lagarde has made an absolutely shocking announcement. Absolutely insane.
I have good news for you on the digital euro front. The European Council has asked us and all those involved to accelerate the process so that we can roll out the digital euro as early as possible. We want cash to be in the form of digital euro as well. So off we go with the digital euro in that next and final phase of the preparation.
This is not a project in search of a cause. It embodies the capacity of Europe to defend itself.
She used words like urgent and emergency. She's saying that they've had to accelerate the digital euro. So you might say, well, why? Why do you need to accelerate the digital euro? And I was reading over the documents that have been published, so the publications on the ECB website, and it actually admits here, they did this exercise and they found that as soon as they launched the digital euro, it would draw out 700 billion euros from the banking system, from people's bank accounts, because it will do this transfer, right? And people have said, I keep seeing all the time, well, it doesn't affect me. Why would I be affected if, they just transfer my euros into digital euros? It's just the same thing, isn't it? No, it's not. People are so naive, they have no idea what's going on. It's not the same thing. A euro and a digital euro, completely different things. One is somewhat free, and cash is almost completely free, but the other, the digital euro, is not free at all. It makes you a slave to the EU, these unelected officials. When they do this changeover, the 700 billion will be pulled out of bank reserves, because they're not just going to do, they don't just create these new digital euros, they're going to create them out of thin air and destroy the euros that are sat in bank accounts. And when this occurs, the exercise showed that it creates a wave of collapsing banks, and it begins with the smaller banks, and they collapse almost immediately because all their reserves are liquidated. There's nothing left. Then it hits the medium-sized banks, then it hits the larger-sized banks, and it says it's only a matter of time until the large banks collapse as well. Well, if you don't convert those euros into something else, and I've talked about what I would convert a lot of it into, we've talked about gold and silver, whether that's physical, whether that's allocated, unallocated, a lot of you have taken my gold and silver courses, so you already know all this, you know exactly what to do. But you've got to do something. And people say, well, I'll just convert all of mine. You can't. It's 3,000 to 4,000 euros. You've got a limit, and that's it. you can only transfer over 3,000 to 4,000 euros. So if you've got more than that in your bank, what on earth are you going to do? And do you think Lagarde cares? No, because she's a technocrat, or more specifically, she's an authoritarian collectivist. You could even call her a neoliberal technocrat with authoritarian tendencies, because she knows what's best for society. That's the hubris, and that's what really scares me about some of these people. Her, Kaya, Ursula, these three women are very, very dangerous. The fact that they think that they know best and that everyone should listen to them, and again, I'll quote their own words, that people are manageable units. They're not people. They treat them as units. That is technocracy. These people are wolves in sheep's clothing. They really are. And we've been trying to figure out how this reset was going to occur. Well, I think we know now. These central bank digital currencies are the reset, because when they launch, it's going to destroy the old monetary system. So no wonder China and some of the other BRICS nations are dumping euros. No wonder they're getting rid of them, and they're saying no more trade in dollars, no more trade in euros. It makes perfect sense now. I want to quote one more thing that Lagarde said here as well. She said, the stable environment is officially ending. This is Lagarde, not me saying it. She said, we're in a race against time due to war with Russia, geopolitics, trade wars, inflation, and aging population driving instability. This is her argument for why we need the digital euro and why we need it right now. And did you see this announcement? The EU now is to follow Australia and create a ban of under 16s from social media. In fact, it's taken me a while, longer than it should have done, but I finally figured out what this whole child ban is all about, this under 16 child ban. Think about this. What are they actually doing? They're getting mass compliance at a young age. So they're not going after the people who they know that are going to fight it. They're going after the kids under 16 because, look, this is a multi-generational plan that they're implementing here. This isn't a, oh, we need to do this in the next year or two kind of plan. They are going to do this over a very, very long period of time. So these kids that are 12, 13, 14 right now, they're getting them to scan their faces. They're doing all this facial scanning where the kids get used to it. But what else are they doing? They're building up a database. So they're creating this massive database then of children who eventually turn 18, conscription. They know where they are, mass control, mass surveillance at all times. And once this is implemented, that's it. It's game over. It's not going to be unimplemented. They're not going to take it out. Once they've done this, that is it. It's there for good. At the same time, remember, Macron has announced, he made this announcement that the coming, he used the word coming, war with Russia will trigger conscription. Germany has already gone down this road. In fact, Germany is going to be the leader of NATO. This is what is planned. They don't want the US to be the leader of NATO anymore. They want Germany to be the leader of NATO. Second to that is Poland. Poland, massive growing economy and well-deserved for Poland and the Polish people. Massively well-deserved. Entering the G20 very shortly. I'm just honestly so grateful and glad that so many of you have taken my training programs now. Really, because you are going to have so many options to escape all of this. And if you've bought them for your kids, when I say kids, I mean adult kids or 18, 20-year-olds, whatever, because they're going to have lots of options. In fact, I get emails all the time saying, Neil, thank you for that you said this or you said that, or that post in the Patreon. Someone recently emailed me saying they've just got their children, their adult sons' visas outside of the UK. Someone also said outside of Germany, outside of France, outside of Spain, got their sons these visas, and they've taken the digital programs as well, the rapid cash flow program, all these other things so that they can earn money from wherever they are in the world. So honestly, as crazy as this is, I think a lot of you are going to be well protected against some of these measures coming down the line.
In The Origins of Totalitarianism, Arendt wrote that the ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced Nazi or the convinced communist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction, true and false, no longer exists. Daniel Kahneman's dual process theory identifies two cognitive systems of the human mind. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional, whereas System 2 is slow, deliberate, and logical. You can experience this right now. Perform a true or false test, and you'll activate your System 1. Perform a multiple choice test, and you'll activate your System 2. When the human mind is confronted with binary choices, System 1 handles the decision processing with its automatic emotional response, and it never gets any further analysis. System 1 goes back to our most basic survival instincts, and it is good for processing binary choices such as fight or flight, edible or toxic, alive or dead, but it is not suitable for processing complex issues. This is what System 2 is for. And it is well known in today's study of psychology that when the human mind is presented with only two options, the work automatically goes to System 1, and critical thinking is avoided. The purpose for having these two cognitive systems is efficiency. Once the brain recognizes a binary choice, it reduces cognitive load to a minimum by sending it to System 1. And when cognitive load is at a minimum, people are even more susceptible to external persuasion and group mind. The key to successfully controlling people is to keep them in this binary world so that their critical thinking is rarely, if ever, engaged. And this is best done by keeping them emotional. Both anger and fear will do the job. With us or against us, patriot or traitor, support this policy or you want people to die, are all binary choices used over and over again to keep people anchored in binary thinking and render them blind. Published experiments will tell you that when humans are reminded of their mortality or of any existential threat, they will cling more tightly to their beliefs and their worldview and become more hostile to those who challenge it. This is why political discourse uses apocalyptic language. It is understood in psychology that people's beliefs will strengthen when they are attacked. This is called attitude entrenchment. The human mind is predisposed to categorize people into in-groups and out-groups, to favor in-group members and belittle out-group members in order to elevate their own in-group status. And it is known that it takes very little to activate this tribalism. Some experiments have used a simple coin flip to steer people towards in-group acceptance. This innate human tribalism has been weaponized through politically constructed binaries that were designed to both divide people and to make them see the world however the designers want them to. In Propaganda, the Formation of Men's Attitudes, Ellul wrote that propaganda works best when it simplifies complex realities into binary choices, because humans crave the cognitive relief of simple answers, and that the most effective propaganda isn't spreading lies, it is spreading binary frameworks that make certain conclusions appear inevitable. This binary brainwashing has been going on for generations, and for many people, political positions have become their identity. Their social belonging, self-identity, and status are built upon it. And for many, the discomfort of challenging one's own beliefs and admitting error is too much to handle. It is far more convenient to go with simple binary choices and move with the herd. But if you have any desire for the truth, then you will have to learn to apply critical thinking to everything. And most importantly, learn how your mind is being manipulated.
How do you know if you're in the middle of a psychological operation?
I would just assume 24/7 that we are. But let's go into the details. But
what are the signs that something is a psychological operation specifically?
So narrative sticking points. So matching narrative is number one. And matching narrative means that I'm hearing pretty much the same messaging from media outlets, celebrity influencers, which is number two, and authority. So people that are in a position of social authority, not like cops and lawyers, and judges, but people in social authority, like pop singers. And I won't say any names, pop singers, the most popular pop singers, all saying the same shit on social media. That should terrify you to the deepest part of your core, that none of this is real, or none of this is what it seems like. And those are the first two. Number 3 is, if you're seeing people silenced or ostracized for disagreeing with an idea. We saw this during the pandemic, like crazy. There were Harvard-educated medical doctors that were kicked off of social media, which is our greatest fear of human beings, is being ostracized socially. It's greater than death. This is why public speaking is rated higher by almost everybody than death. And it's not public speaking that we're afraid of. It's being out there and having a big idea and then getting rejected by a large crowd. That's what terrifies human beings. And you can leverage the shit out of that, especially when you can manufacture an artificial tribe on social media. So Harvard-educated doctors that disagreed with this mainstream narrative were getting banned. And the dude, I can't remember his name. I wish I could, but the dude who invented mRNA vaccines was on there and went against the narrative and got ostracized. The dude who invented this kind of vaccine, it's unbelievable. So like, and that step 3, just remember in your mind that if an idea requires suppression to exist, it's a horrible idea, and it's most likely a psyop. Good ideas don't need to suppress other people. Good ideas travel on their own. Good ideas spread on their own. It doesn't need suppression by itself. So those 3 are some of the big ones. And
now, the US President Donald Trump warns his country will, quote, take very strong action against Iran if protests continue. Thousands of anti-government demonstrations and demonstrators have died since demonstrations began. Some people are now able to call people outside of the country. Although an ongoing internet blackout remains in place, the US and the UK have both started to move troops out of the region's bases as Iran threatens retribution over any possible US strikes. Donald Trump has warned of very strong action if Iran continues to execute demonstrators. His comments follow the arrest of 26-year-old Irfan Soltani, whose capital punishment was due to be carried out today.
If they hang him, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action. We don't want to see what's happening in Iran happen. And, you know, if they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them.
Air raid shelters have begun to open in Israel, while German airline carrier Lufthansa says it will be cancelling flights to the region.
You might want to turn your volume down, because I'm about to cuss a lot. But what I'm about to say, I know millions of Americans feel this way. But this message goes out to President Trump, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, GOP, the Republican Party. What the fuck is taking so long? You're about to complete your first year, and no one has been held accountable of weaponizing the DOJ, the fraud that's been exposed, USAID, and all that NGO money. The illegal immigrants who were flown to America on U.S. tax-paying dollars. The motherfuckers from Afghanistan sent here who just killed our National Guard. No one has been held fucking accountable yet. And we're getting sick and fucking tired of waiting for accountability. And I don't want to hear that bullshit. Lou, trust the process. It takes time to build a case. No, fuck that. You're in your first year. We know what you know, and we've been calling this shit out for years now. And no one has been held accountable. Not Obama, not Biden, not Clapper, not Brennan, not Comey, not Pelosi. And we've known about this for years. And we're getting sick and tired of fucking waiting. We fought day in and day out the last 10 years with our hands tied behind our fucking back, bringing the truth to these stupid ass Americans who believe the bullshit from the left. We got you in that seat. We got them appointed, and then we got the GOP elected. While we were down and they were trying to lock President Trump up, they kept kicking us while we were down. Why in the fuck is the right or you guys giving these fucking people the kid gloves? Why are y'all being nice to these fucking people? Because they weren't nice to us. To this day, they're still not nice to us. They killed Charlie Kirk, motherfuckers. They try to take out President Trump. What the fuck are you waiting for?
Donald Trump had specifically asked about me because I remind him of his daughter, and she said, well, she's 13 as well. So he knew the first time that he saw me. But he comes over mad because I was crying, and so that I should be thankful that someone like Donald Trump took my virginity. He basically didn't say took my virginity. He said, I should be glad that someone like Donald Trump popped my cherry and not some pimply little 14-year-old. And I just was like, what if I said, what if I get pregnant? Not even talking to him. I didn't want to talk to him. I was talking to Tiffany. And he said, well, you'll get an abortion then, bitch, and then just walked away.
Why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's...
Just trying to get my facts straight. Just hear me out. So that judge I talked about yesterday that was harboring an illegal immigrant gang member at his house, he's no longer allowed to be a judge. He lost his job. He's fired. I'm sorry. That's just not enough for me. It's weird to me. I look up the definition of treason. It doesn't say you'll lose your job. You'll lose your job. No, you'll be put to death. That is the fucking punishment for treason. It's been the punishment for treason forever. AOC makes a fucking website helping out illegal immigrants how to get away from ICE so they don't get caught. Treason. Nobody in Washington gets arrested. Ever. When have you ever seen anyone in Washington get arrested? Fuck this shit. I'm never voting again.
Did you know the average woman now applies 515 synthetic chemicals on her skin every day? This is concerning. Your skin tends to absorb approximately 60% of everything that is applied to it. So many of these chemicals are entering the bloodstream and causing harm. Wait until you realise that 9/11 wasn't the only inside job. Of course, US Maine, Spanish-American War, sinking of the Lusitania, Pearl Harbor, Operation Northwoods, Gulf of Tonkin. They've been doing it all our lives to keep us distracted and scared. Believing Big Pharma wants to cure you is like believing a casino wants you to win. The frequency of herbs. Rose 320, frankincense 147, lavender 118, chamomile 105, myrrh 105, rosemary 102, juniper 98, sandalwood 96, tea tree 92, jasmine 80, oregano 78, peppermint 78, lemon 52, eucalyptus 52, basil 52. They say 5G is not dangerous. Then why is this guy connected to an internal cooling radiation suit? Justice Secretary David Lammy is proposing to massively restrict the ancient right to a jury trial by only guaranteeing it for defendants facing rape, murder, manslaughter or other cases passing a public interest test. The proposals are an attempt to end unprecedented delays and blockages in courts and do not apply in Scotland and Northern Ireland. The end of trial by jury. No, it's so that you only have to go before a judge who will just decide and you don't get a chance to do anything. It's all about taking your rights away, every part of it. Our government is backwards. We are private. The government should know nothing about us. They are public servants. We should know everything about them. In North Korea, people are forced to listen to propaganda. But in America, they do so willingly. And in the UK, they even pay for it. Folks, The FBI, CIA cannot allow Trump to release the Epstein files because those files would show the FBI and CIA allowed American children to be raped for decades by an agent for Israel in order to collect blackmail on American elites. And those elites are still in power today.
This one's in Thailand.
Been in Thailand before.
Have you?
Beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful.
What comes with the island?
There's a small villa there. You could practically build what you want.
There's building space.
Yeah, there's
Do the islands come with the children, or the children?
This island does have a small school. There are children.
Okay, so I don't know if that was a stipulation.
Yeah.
What countries are near to abduct them from?
Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam,
Philippines.
The Philippines.
Of course.
The Filipinos, if they're not being a nurse, they're being your crew. Okay, so.
True.
Yeah. So.
What age ranges?
Below 10, I don't really.
The other thing I'd like to address, the whole psychology of this is you don't trust the Russians, you don't do this. That has been so built up in our psyche, and someone mentioned the Korean airliner. All right, the Korean airliner was shot down. There was a lot of hue and cry and moral outrage, and we got it in the United Nations and so forth. In 1978 or 79, the Israelis shot down a Libyan civilian aircraft because it had violated Israeli airspace. President Nixon sent a wire to Gaddafi and to Sadat apologizing for this incident. There was no talk about it going into the United Nations. The International Pilots Associations had their meeting. There was 102 nations that voted to condemn Israel, and 4 that voted not to, and the American representative abstained. Why? Because we couldn't create an enemy there. But when the Soviets shoot down an airliner, the same situation, we rise in moral outrage against this act. What is the difference? Because it's insistent. We must insist that the Soviets have got to be created as an enemy. Otherwise, if they're not really a big enough enemy, how are we going to get appropriations for more arms? Now, and I'd like to get into the other area. I'm sorry if this is a speech and you don't like them, but people keep talking about national security, and we got to be tough, and we got to be strong. Okay, we're tough, and we're strong, and we've released all these missiles now, the intermediate range missile, the Pershing II, and we're going to have more Tridents too. And what was the Soviet response? The Soviet response is to put cruise missile into attack submarines and put more of them off our coast. Now, if someone's going to tell me that increases our national security, well, I don't know. It's a whole ball game that I don't understand.
Thank you to everyone who buys me a coffee. Thank you.
That's really impressive, sir, but I said I wanted to listen to your heart.
Welcome to your local GP surgery. If you arrive early, you will wait. If you arrive on time, you will wait. If you arrive late, well, you should have arrived earlier.
To book an appointment, please call at exactly 8 a.m. If you call at 8:01, you are wasting everyone's time. Alternatively, you can fill in our online form. It takes 45 minutes. At the end, we will ask you to call the surgery anyway. You'll never get bored of your doctor because it's never the same one twice. Collect them all like Pokemon.
My wife has just gone into labour.
Is this her first child?
No, it's her husband.
Relax in our comfortable waiting room. The chairs are designed to worsen your condition, and every magazine is from a different decade.
Our receptionists are not doctors, but they will decide if you need or even get to see one.
Your appointment will be 5 minutes long. The clock starts the second you say hello.
Good news. It's either nothing or everything. We'll start with paracetamol.
Today the doctor told me I was colourblind. Well, that came completely out of the purple.
Your medication is ready. It just needs approving by someone who is currently on annual leave. If your symptoms persist, please book another appointment. Good luck with that.
Your local GP surgery. We're not here to fix everything, just enough to send you home.
That's all, folks.